Here we go. Let's do this.
We've got one life, one shot. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Addicted to Betterment, a podcast to inspire us to keep going, to try something new, to dream, to think big, bigger, to overcome. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Well, David, the day has come. We have had various contributing humans that are experts in different areas on the show that we really admire, but no one has come in as a partner with us yet on Addicted to Betterment for consistent content. Until now, David and I lost a collective 60 plus pounds this past year, and we feel better. It's just one component of our health, but a big one, our weight and the weight management, that we balance. And I know it's a journey for everyone. Not most people aren't blessed their whole lives with like, oh, I just eat whatever and feel great. And it just works, right? At some point you get on a journey to figure out how to manage it, and every body is different. And not everybody, but everybody is different. And we have to really understand what's behind that. And not only do David and I feel better, but I'll say I'm definitely standing taller and I'm saying yes to more. So I'm just more confident, because there's a lot of things I was turning down because I'm like, I just don't feel good about myself. And that's not me. So I wasn't living my authentic life because I'm saying no to things because I don't feel good about my weight. Well, weight is just one teeny tiny component of the grand, plan of life. And we practice the life wheel, which is like all areas holistically impacting each other. It's like if home is not good because of someone that lives in our home and they're stressing us out, everything's affected. So is health. We decided to choose great partners to come in and start educating on health, because I think it's the building block for everything else. And so half the time, these people that we chose, I'm not sure what they're saying, but I'm learning along with you. And so far, I've lost weight, but I'm ready to go on a journey. And we're about to introduce them. But David, I'd love for you to also share in just why we chose these partners to come alongside us before we introduce them.
Man, well, not only do you feel good, Nikki, but I got to say you look amazing. And it makes me want to work harder to stay healthy if I'm going to be married to a smoke show of a wife. But, the reality is we talk a lot about the life wheel and how all of it is interconnected, but it's hard to do anything if you don't feel good, if you don't feel healthy, where you feel alive. The difference in, waking up and being sluggish and just trying to get through the day and you don't feel great, you don't feel healthy, the difference in that feeling versus waking up feeling alive, feeling healthy, feeling strong, and being able to focus and attack all of the areas of life wheel. So for me, it helps me be a better husband. It helps me be a better father. When I pick up my kids and I feel good, and we're sitting at dinner and I feel good and I feel mentally strong. So at the end of the day, it's a financial conversation is a lot easier when you feel good versus when you just feel like crap. So in my mind, this is just right up there with the top foundational levels. So I love what you said. When we get in conversations with our partners, sometimes the level of knowledge, it's a little much to take in, but that's why we chose them, and won their heart for helping people be healthier and doing it from a holistic science-based background. That is the answer for me. And we spent a lot of time talking about who we want to bring in first. And dang, I am excited for this partnership. And friends, I know that you will be too. So buckle up.
So it's come time that we're all going to start this learning journey together. And we kind of prefaced these partners to come alongside us around this concept of activating our best health. I think there's so much to be discussed, and we're going to keep it fluid through these different episodes that we create. And, as listeners, if you have topics that you're really interested in, you're struggling with something, like let us know, because they'd love to know. They want to help solve problems and make people feel better. So right now we're on a journey to activate our best health, because when we are healthy and energized, we're just better everywhere else. So welcome, Dr. Saddoris, and welcome, John Nieters. We talk to leaders who are committed to constant improvement of all areas of their lives. And I mentioned this life wheel tool that we use to kind of checks and balances. And health is foundational, as you know, and why you're there, to be able to keep us in this like flow of life that doesn't like interrupt because we're constantly sick or not feeling well or saying no to things because we're not confident because of where we're at. So I'd love to open up and have you two share in telling about your work and why you do what you do and how it helps our audience, which are leaders, to experience just their best state of being and be a ripple effect on all of those that they lead. So turning it over to you all to hear your story and passion.
I've always been called to be a healer, something I've been called to when I was 5 years old. And the healing is more than just simply health. It's just a whole mental, spiritual, physical interactions. We are so interconnected with each part. And sometimes we like to separate things, but we have to realize that we have to focus on all aspects of our health. Our problem in medicine that I've encountered, I call it cookbook medicine. They have this formula that's supposed to fit everybody. But if you look around, does everybody look the same? They are as different on the inside as they are on the outside, right? And that we have to focus on what their needs are. And from what their needs are is where we then grow from. I always say life, every experience is a growing. Some people get caught in the past and blame and shame and guilt and unforgiveness, which just ties you to something that is no longer real anymore. And as long as we start focusing on the present and making choices that can define our future, then we start feeling better about ourselves. And so every choice leads to our next choice options. If I decide to rob somebody, my options have limited to prison we live by our options and our choices. And so my focus is always to say, we learn from it, we grow from it, and we move on from it, because those things that we take with us as we learn is going to be used and needed for our next step in our life.
And then to kind of piggyback off of that, a big part of what we do is based upon patient goals, right? So we're obviously there to come up with solutions to help them achieve that goal. Now, obviously, not everybody's goal can be realistic in, necessarily the time horizon that they're looking at. But a lot of times, if you have frank conversations with them over taking that first step, then maybe that first step leads into 2 and 3. And, it's just a snowball effect, right? And a big part of it as well is understanding that as humans, we have 3 aspects. I mean, we have the mental, the astral, and the physical aspect, right? And just working out and hitting the gym is only sufficient for one of those, right? And that doesn't necessarily make you happy or feel good. It will to some degree, but if you have massive mental issues, if you have addictions or whatever else your ailment may be, you're not going to feel your best. So we're here to address not just the physical aspects, but the mental and otherwise as well.
John and Dr. Saddoris, you guys are such a great partner. Everything that you said, and I speak from my own example, and I can't wait for Nikki to share her experience, but I love the gym. And I've been active in sports and working out most of my entire life. And, I remember, John, one of our first conversations when I was just going to the gym. Maybe I don't eat perfectly healthy. Okay, maybe I don't eat exactly the best, but I'm going to the gym, not seeing the results that I used to see in my 20s, not seeing the results that I used to see in my 30s. And I know in conversations with Nikki, she was experiencing somewhat the same. Like, dang, this walking the same distance or doing the same exercise doesn't have quite the same benefits as it did before. And then it affects your mental health, and that affects your spiritual health, and the compound effect of that, and your intention and thought process around that versus just, hey, we want to help somebody have a 6-pack, or we want to help, lose X amount of weight. That is why this conversation is awesome. And it's so applicable to every single person that's listening to the show. And then also why you guys are such great partners, and I'm excited to share this. So it's not about the 6-pack. It's about how you feel, all the things, mentally, spiritually, and then physically. So thank you for saying that so perfectly.
But if anyone out there that's a listener really wants a six pack, I mean, you did just hear from John that it's all driven by patient goals. And like, this could be the, the highest level of where you want to be as the outcome. And you know what, we can lead into that. Just, we're not just going for six packs. We're going for this full body, holistic health experience. And as Dr. Saddoris and John both shared, it's this dance between three parts: the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And I think sometimes people just like laser focus into one. And it's this, I say dance. I don't like the word balance because it, based on where you're at any given time, and having someone that helps to guide the way is so important. And that's why we're really trusting the two of them to help us. I think I like to recap key takeaways as we go, remembering that every body is unique. Every human is unique. And so I work in the realm of culture, workplace culture. And what the Next Door company did to win best places and their award, you can't just blueprint that. They're different humans. And what's going to work there has to be studied to understand that. And so I love the point that they've made so far that every human has unique needs. And our personal healthcare practices must be outside the box. And I think, we're taking control here. One of the reasons that we're here, and this is so important to us, is not only did David and I lose a lot of weight, which, could have been a detrimental thing down the road and probably was causing some challenges, but I woke up one day with lost eyesight in one eye last year, went to the emergency room, was there all day, go to the discharge doctor, and in a few moments, he tells me that I have MS. I did not have MS, but I lived for 7 weeks thinking that I did. Very devastating. You Google all the things, right? I did not have that. One day I will report him. I just got the bill for that. It's been like a year, but that just tells you like the slowness of our healthcare system. And if we just follow this is just what you do next on your healthcare, card, like I am done with that. We're not doing that. And we are going to think outside the box to be different. And you have to think outside the box nowadays. So part of Addicted to Betterment is challenging ourselves outside of our comfort zone. If you're a great leader, you do things outside your comfort zone. One unique thing that David and I do share is we're constantly outside of our comfort zone, sometimes to a place where it's like, what are we doing? But, we are here today to really learn outside the box, because I don't want to go through what I went through for months, outside of my weight loss journey, just being passed along and waiting and not feeling like I like the word concierge. I felt like I have a concierge experience with the two of them, and that's what we all deserve. And unfortunately, we live in a country where most don't experience that. And so what can we do to help educate that and get started in the place to meet that body, that person where they are, and have that custom plan? So, I thought maybe for a minute before we turn it over to kind of talk about the different buckets of content that will be coming. I heard, they've got some exciting things about like hormone discussions for many episodes. We want to hear kind of all these different topics that are going to be covered. But before we do that, I think, David, I'd love for you to share your experience working with TestRX. I know that there's a number of, solutions that they brought to the table, and you're feeling better in a lot of ways. So let's kind of talk through that and what the experience has been like. And then we'll have Dr. Saddoris and John talk about many different pieces of this health conversation that will be coming.
Man, you said a phrase that just resonated with me, and I think would resonate with every single person. I want to repeat what you said: finding someone to help guide the way. And so often we're looking for that, finances, we're trying to find the expert to help, with the investments and the savings and how to do that well. And there's so much information out there that sometimes it's information overload and you're confused. And if you're someone like myself, you can go to the gym, you can go to the supplement store, you read the magazines, you read the things, and it's like, one thing says this is great, the other one says this is terrible. One thing says do these exercises, the next thing you read says don't do those, because it's information overload, and you need an expert, someone who is an expert in the field to help guide the way. And so for me, that's where this came to be such a life-changing thing for me. I've spent lots of time in supplement stores. The amount of money that I've spent in supplements and in gym memberships, and talking to this friend and that friend, and I love that. But at the end of the day, finding an expert to sit down with who isn't saying, hey, do this because this is what worked for everybody else, but asking the questions to find out what my own personal state is. What are the things I'm struggling with? What's going well? What's not going well? Asking the questions to the concierge type service that you described so perfectly is exactly why, from an expert. That concierge, from an expert is the reason. So for me, man, having conversations with John and just, hey, I want to level up my health. I want to get more fit. I want to feel better. I want to feel more alive. And meeting with him and Dr. Saddoris and asking the right questions and giving them answers and helping, to figure out what is the thing that will work. So for me, I have no interest in being a bodybuilder and having big muscles. And I mean, I want to have muscles.
Six
Come on,
pack,
guys.
6-pack coming soon.
But what I do want to, I want to feel strong. I want to feel alive, and I want to feel healthy. And I will tell you, Nikki, it was a slow process. It wasn't an instant light switch overnight thing that suddenly I woke up but man, the compound effect of working closely with them and them helping me achieve those goals. I got to say, at almost 50 years old, I feel as good as I felt in my 20s. I feel alive, like mentally, physically, and that carries over to every area of my life. And so, man, the gratitude that I have for that, and then introducing you into the process and seeing your change. And I want to say, from a husband's perspective, men, if you're out there listening to this, when your wife feels good and she looks in the mirror and knows that she looks good, guys, it changes everything. It makes everything about your relationship and your life better. And I want to tell you, when your wife does look good and feel good, make sure you acknowledge it. Just FYI, make sure you tell her how good she looks. But it changes everything. And so for me, I would say our partnership, before we even talk to them about being a part of Addicted to Betterment, our partnership with Dr. Saddoris and John and the TestRX crew was life-changing.
Yeah. And not for us to keep talking. We won't be here with them all the time. It's our one time that we're here to really tee them up and just tell you how passionate we are about this topic, because it's been so close to us, but also the changes that they've helped to make in our lives. It's one part is frustration and pain with dealing with traditional healthcare. And the other side is experiencing the success that we've had with them. It's like, I have a hard time shutting up so that they can teach you, because there's just so much here. But just a couple quick comments, and then we want to turn it over. David, you are about to turn 50, big birthday party coming. So Dr. Saddoris, John, you're invited. We might even go to Vegas for that. I don't know, folks. They just moved across the country to Vegas. Maybe that's where the big party is. But he doesn't look a day over 37 for most that, witness him. They're always like, what? And he just, continues to look better and better. And it's all about how we take care of ourselves. Back to that concierge focus that I love. And I had a thought. Think about this. You can always make more money, but you can't get time back, right? And if you think about the concierge that you spend for your finances, your financial advisor, how much do you invest in your financial advisor to help with your finances? Keep doing that. Keep doing that. But you can always make more money. You can always figure out a solution. You can't go back once, there's ways to recover health, but it's your time. You can't lose the time that you had when you said no. You said no because you didn't want to be there, because you didn't feel good about yourself, or you just didn't feel good. And it's like, okay, that's a really good light bulb. I thought about it while I was sitting there. I was like, man, that's really good. I should probably mention that. But anyway, so I'd love to turn it over. Dr. Saddoris and John, talk to us about what's coming. And one of the things I just remembered is, I didn't have a weight issue of the additional weight piling on until like 2 years ago. Like I was able to manage it, but then I got to a certain age. And I think that probably has something to do with hormones, and probably why you made the suggestion for what you did with me and my dosage and what I was doing. I didn't always have that problem. All of a sudden I did. And then I'm like, my mindset is messed up because I don't feel good. And so that, going back to the everybody is different, that's where the hormone conversation comes in as one of those. But tell us, what are all of these different topics that we'll be covering?
So one thing I just wanted to hop in, I noticed something that you mentioned earlier, Nikki, that really resonated with even just talking about outside the box solutions. So I really want to challenge individuals who might be struggling in this area. Think about like who even created that box and why they created the box and what actually constitutes is outside of the box thinking, right? And like our insurance companies behind the box, right? Or who, whoever in their perspective may come up with different answers. But I definitely challenge people to just always ask questions, right? Whether it's to us about this specific topic or just anything in life, ask questions or think about questions. Why is it set up this way? Why are, all of these different factors? And you can really get to the heart or the truth of the matter, which is a really sad reality in today's healthcare environment.
Well, I think my biggest focus is not only addressing what issues people are currently having, I always like to look to the future. And the future is always in my mind, how do I slow aging? Because aging is caused by cellular damage. And when it gets damaged, then it gets repaired. But like anything that's kind of fixed, it never works as good as it did before it got broken, right? So my goal is always looking at how can we prevent damage to the cells? What things that we can do, but also what supplements we might need to take. Because unfortunately, our society is processed food. So all the nutrients are processed out, and then they try to give it back to us in forms of vitamins or things like that, which have been, again, damaged in its processing form. And so, and antioxidants are things that help the cells from being damaged and sometimes help regenerate the cells. And so you'll probably hear a lot more on those topics. Also, weight management is so critical. We are in a society that judges beauty by appearances. And so I always see the person who's like super, super skinny, malnourished, and I just don't see having vitamin deficiencies and ending up with bone fractures and being bent over, kyphotic, like you're an 80-year-old woman, as an attractive option for a person. Neither does looking at somebody that is very overweight and saying, that is beautiful. And I don't see having, knee replacement surgeries and heart attacks and strokes and kidney failure as an attractive option. So I think we need to really stop looking at weight as beautiful or not, but we should start seeing things in forms of what's healthy for me, because we each have different types of metabolism. And, some people do fantastic on a low carb diet. Some people do not. They do better on a higher fat, but all should be unsaturated. But we need to assess what is a comfortable weight for you, because if you're constantly hungry, then you're always going to be binge eating, And so we have to find that weight that's going to be healthy for you, where you feel good at, but not this standard of you have to be a certain range to be considered in a healthy range, right? Because, how did they come with that up in the first place? One of the things that I read in medical school was that they came up with the temperature of 98.6 as a normal temperature as being 100 doctors. They took their temperatures and they averaged it. Well, I'm sorry. I think there were more than 100 in society. And so, I think we should look at the same thing with weight. They came up with some arbitrary numbers. And we don't, I always tell my patients, I don't treat lab values. I don't treat numbers. I treat people. And I just use that as a guideline of helping me assess things, but it's not the only thing that I look at in an individual. If I get a 30-year-old who happens to have a testosterone total of 300 and the range of normal is between 300 and 1,000, I don't say, oh, you're fine. If you have all these symptoms of low testosterone where you're fatigued and tired, you have no energy, your libido's down, you're starting getting belly fat, and you're starting to lose muscle. And this is a 30-year-old man, and I'm telling them that they're fine because their number is a certain range. No, they're symptomatic and they need to be treated. And we just have to stop listening to insurance companies telling me who can be treated without them doing an exam or evaluation of the patient. And that just gets to me so much. I get very ired by that, but that's our focus is you are different, and we look and approach you differently. And we always are looking not just at the moment, but also the future of how do we avoid problems down the line.
I love how you said the range is what's so important to the insurance companies, right? Since it's all about their bottom dollar. They are looking at things from how can we exclude this treatment? How can we get around not having to pay for this or that, right? Which is unfortunate, but it is the basis of healthcare in America today. Another aspect of, or a way of looking at things that we like to look at the body as a system, right? So if you put bad into a system, how can you expect to get anything but bad out of the system? And, bad isn't necessarily just food, but obviously food is a major component of that. Staying away from, fast food and the genetically modified aspects of any meal that can be encountered pretty much anywhere nowadays. It's very crucial to really look at the ingredient lists on anything you're eating. But beyond that, like other practices, our bodies are electric. It's an electric system, right? You have a millivolt charge to every cell that basically determines your cellular age. So if you're dropping in that voltage, well, you're probably going to be aging. And that's one thing that we look at. And you can also supplement that, not just with supplements, but meditation practices, mindfulness practices, all of the things that you do on a daily basis. When you hear the word mindset, really look at that word and break that up into the two words of mind and set, because the things that you do on a daily basis actually set the frequency of your body and consciousness to receive whatever information or thought processes that you have during a day. So if you aren't liking the thoughts going on in your head, well, maybe you need to change some of your actions to reset that frequency to something better. I think another big aspect of this as well is just living with intention. I can't even count the number of people I know that just wake up, maybe last minute, just go brush their teeth, grab a coffee, run to work, like just to get through the day, just so they can get home to watch some TV show and then pass back out and do it all over again with just going through the motions, right? Instead, understanding every single day that you wake up is a new opportunity to progress you further towards whatever goal you have set. Mm-hmm. But to do that, you actually have to have that intention every single day. And sometimes the intentions or the things that lead to those bigger goals may seem so mundane and so just tiny little things that you need to do this day or that day that just snowball into bigger things and bigger things. And then eventually you're off and running with exponential growth from all of your tasks. So one thing that I learned basically was, you have your commitments that you have to do every day, work, family, all that stuff. What if every single day you took one task, no matter how big or small, that would further you towards your goals? So over the course of a year, you're going to have 365 tasks that you have done to progress you toward your goals. Now, what the really interesting thing about this, though, is the actual amount of energy that's put into this can be pretty minimal, but the effects are compounding, right? You do one thing today, one thing the next day, that can actually account for 3, 4, 5, however many things, depending on the task. So what ends up really happening when you do an exercise like this is instead of getting 365 days or tasks worth of items that you've really done like 10,000. It's just the constant compounding over and over and over. And obviously, as you do this for years and years and years, it gets more and more profound. But instead of just being lackadaisical and just going with emotions, take charge of your life. Understand that you're a creator and that you create based upon those tasks and things that you put into motion. That's just an energy transference. You're giving value to others, or you're putting energy into this to achieve that. It's just like money. At the end of the day, money in itself is a spiritual thing. You're providing value, and that's just a medium of exchange and energy exchange.
That's so good. And, going to the, I guess, various options of, whether it's like our body needs carbs or really meditation is what we need right now to really center us mentally and start from a place that we're grounded before we're going on with our day. The thing that was coming to mind as you were talking is when we think prescription, many times we think a prescription is a medication, right? But a prescription is really like the plan, and a prescribed plan for us is really a unique thing for each body. That's what we're trying to say. But most of the time, it's all in a box, and it's like there's like 4 options for how everybody's going to be treated, and you're going to be in and out of here so fast. I'm curious to know whether someone that's listening is like, I feel super basic in my health efforts, but I want to get better, or someone is like, I'm pretty darn advanced and I want to sharpen. How do you get started with the prescription or that concierge plan that you give them? What's the first steps?
So basically the first step is to fill out an intake form, which we would send you. It's probably going to be listed in the description of this video. And as soon as you fill that out, we do have basically the initial consult and the lab work bundled together that you'd pay for on the intake form, and that's for $150. Then after that, we try to make things as easy as possible for you by not nickel and diming you like pretty much any other clinic that I've seen. You have to pay for every time you get your labs done, every time you want to refill. I mean, it gets insane. So we just make it nice and easy. You just pay one monthly fee and everything is turnkey. That includes shipping, the cost of your medication, the cost of anything needed to administer your medication, all future lab draws, and then an unlimited number of consults as long as it's relevant to your therapy. So we truly try to make it as easy as possible for you so that you don't feel like you're getting nickel and dimed or hosed all along the way, right? Nobody wants to feel like that. We do accept HSA as well to help you out. But as Dr. Saddoris mentioned earlier, we don't do the insurance thing because we don't really like having the way we practice medicine dictated by someone else, right? We like to always be in control.
And I also look at things as in the intake person as to what motivated them to want to get tested, because that gives me an idea of kind of where they are at in their health, right? And where they are focused on. Some of them will come in and say, I just want more energy. I just feel tired all the time. I just have no motivation. Others come in and say, I'm so defeated and trying to lose weight. And there's medications out to help with weight loss, but the problem is that when you stop the medication, weight gain can occur. So what I do during the weight loss journey is I start having them start seeing weight differently. Like, we don't eat to feel full. We stop eating when we're not hungry. Because when you start getting abdominal fat, you lose the ability to feel full. And so that's why you continue to overeat. And we talk about, food choices and how we can make options. We want to try to avoid cravings. And so there's nothing wrong with eating something that you like. The thing is portion control, right? Or sometimes substitutions that it can be similar. Instead of eating sweet potatoes, you can do squash, which has a whole lot less carbohydrates, can still be equally satisfying. So we talk about that. How do we get rid of all of these abnormal metabolites from excessive toxins that we have in our system? We forget that excessive sugar is a toxin in our body, and it causes inflammation and causes it difficult to lose weight. So we discuss how are the ways that we can adjust those things. So it's not just simply taking an injection and help you lose your weight, but it's also rethinking about food and how you approach it, and no longer looking at it as making you beautiful or a certain weight. We do more focus on let's lose abdominal fat, because that's the part that affects your health. And so we do, abdominal measurements. Weight's been done, but that's not our focus. Our focus is, am I improving by eliminating the abdominal fat that's causing health problems? because muscle weighs more than fat. So if I'm lifting weight, my weight might go up, if I'm lifting a lot of weights and building muscle, but I've lost a lot of abdominal fat, which is healthy. And that's what our focus is maintaining good health for you.
So, Nikki, I got to say, everything that they have said to this point, it's interesting. At Addicted to Betterment, the purpose of our show is to be able to get better in every area of life and find ways to do that. And when you think that we are at People Forward Network, we live on the People Forward Network platform, which is meaningful work, meaningful life. And no better way to have a meaningful life than to take good care of your health. And what I heard Dr. Saddoris say was, I don't treat a lab value. I don't treat a number. I treat people. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for, is someone to hear us and to understand us versus just being treated like a number. And man, it just makes me so proud and grateful to have our partners just helping us live out these values and this mission that we've started of just getting better in life and helping others experience meaningful life. And man, just what perfect partners. And I'm so grateful that we were able to bring them on, because everything I heard Dr. Saddoris and John say, I was like, wow, it's so perfect with what we're trying to accomplish.
Totally. And David, you were just sharing something around, our listeners, everyone is working on sharpening and getting better. Like that's the core of our show, Mamba mentality, if you will. And I have a women's group. There are two things that came up in this women's group, probably 10, but two that I think of. They're some of my closest friends that are all entrepreneurs. They're crushing the game. Like we've been through so much life together. And one of my dear friends sitting there the other day, she said, man, I don't know what it is, but I just cannot get going in the morning anymore. Something has happened. There's nothing bad or sad going on in my life. Like I just don't feel it. Like I feel apathetic about the things that I love. And there are times in life for all of us based on hormones, based on changes in our body that we don't understand. And we don't want to be that way because we're high achievers. Like we want to be healthy high achievers and not, burnout high achievers. We want to be able to balance that, but no one wants to be apathetic and trying to figure out there's something here that like I need tweaked. I need someone to help me, which then goes into a conversation about another lady at the table. And John, you said, well, the labs are included and you talked about the price point. And I think one thing that you do from the very beginning is you're knowing every body is different. You're doing labs from the very beginning. You're not like, well, tell me your symptoms and then I'm going to go ahead and let you know what to do. And in 8 minutes, we're going to get out here and CVS. Okay, great. Pick that about 30 minutes. Like you are taking time to really understand and get metrics and data to know what's going on so that we're really solving the core thing. And the point to that is that's awesome that you do that from the beginning. And the person sitting at the table said, I just went and got my labs done. And there's 2 tests that they do to check in within a certain time period. And it was a $550 deposit just for the labs. And so just throwing out there that, yeah, this alternative stuff, it's not cheap, but think about what is the best thing that we can invest in our lives. We want to live. We want to live full lives and you want to feel good. And so I just wanted to make that point. And the other kind of piece that I know David and I loved when we were talking with you all, and we've had a recent conversation around, is that you take the approach of there's 3 components. And, I'd love for you to talk about this. There's the mental, there's the physical, and the spiritual. And I don't have any other healthcare professional of any kind that's helping me learn about the vibration, hertz that I need to play in order to bring abundance in my life. Or when I go to bed, how I'm, gaining peace because of the hertz levels and things. I mean, this is a whole nother game. So can you all talk about those 3 components and why it's so important to have all 3 at the table as a healthcare coach, and leader for people that you work with?
Yeah, we like to incorporate a lot of things that, connect mind, body, and spirit, right? And whether you know this or not, the basis of life is resonance. Now, all resonance is frequency. So it's a vibration. The cells in your body vibrate, obviously minute amounts, but very quickly. And you're not going to be able to see that because it's such small particles. But if you're able to align that resonance in your body, which we're 80% water, which water is very heavily affected by frequency, you are able to amplify effects in one direction or the other. So as she mentioned earlier, like the abundance frequency is 888. You also have chakras, which are energy centers in your body. You can trigger opening or closing root chakra all the way through the crown, depending on what frequency you use. The crown chakra would be like 963, all the way down to like 111 hertz. You also could incorporate like Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz for grounding. So that can help you kind of bring everything back home, like when you're trying to wind down at the end of the day. And then, as you mentioned, you had a colleague who had trouble getting going in the morning. So these are brainwave states that you can also affect with resonance. So if you look at like alpha, beta, or all the way up through delta states, you can actually trigger concentration states, which would be like above 40 hertz, or you could trigger, deep REM sleep, which would be like sub 8 hertz, and even further sub 4 hertz. Or you can trigger the alpha state, which is kind of that state, like everybody knows the feeling, you wake up and then maybe you kind of just walk to the fridge, get some water, you're still a walking zombie, right? And then you kind of lay back down to get that extra half hour of sleep, right? So that's kind of that in between, especially when you lay back down and you kind of like fall back into like kind of that half sleep for a little bit before you go all the way out. That is an ideal state to do a lot of like astral work. Or you can do all sorts of things there, but that's when you're able to have your body asleep, but your mind's still awake to go do things. It's a very, very misunderstood area of medicine, and it's also a very profound state where you can do a lot of inner work as well. And it's really come to light recently. So it's something that the ancients or esoteric religion or these esoteric knowledge banks have all already understood fundamentally, but we're just now rediscovering this as a society.
Yeah, I like that alpha state. I call that in a state of vision. It can be a state of letting go. I think it's part of the brain's healing of yourself. And I think that if you allow yourself to be free, it's that creativity that you're tapping into. And I always feel if we can tap into our creativity, because creativity is fun. You look at children playing and they're having fun and they're doing these weird things on the ground or making things or whatever. They're being creative. And so if we can approach our life with creativity and allowing us to no longer see a roadblock, but see that we can go through it or go around it, but we don't let it limit us, because when we're limited is when we get frustrated. And those very states that John talked about, I think can be approached also mentally through meditation. When you're in a state of anger or unforgiveness or envy, you're at a very low energy level and it keeps you trapped there. And, I'm very much of a Christian and, I remember, Jesus saying, when you think of what is kind and what is, being grateful, all of those symptoms elevates your energy level. It elevates the way you see, but it also opens up your creativity into no longer being stuck where you're at and see a way out of it. I know when I took calculus in college, I would struggle with a problem and I would go to sleep and then I'd be in this zombie state. I called it zombie state and I realized it's alpha state. And all of a sudden the solution came to me and I woke, when I was waking up and I thought, what was so hard about this? So it allows you not to be frustrated with the problems. It allows you to see past them.
Definitely. And I actually remembered something based upon some of the words that you chose to use there. But as you were saying that, if you're in an unforgiving state or in an angered state, you're at a very low level of not only resonance, but consciousness in general. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the map of consciousness. It's developed by a guy by the name of Hawkins. And basically, It charts different emotional states along with consciousness levels, starting with like the lowest of like shame or guilt or apathy or grief, all the way through. And the anger aspect that Dr. Saddoris mentioned is kind of the next level up from that, which is still a low level. It's like the fear, desire, and anger. And then you get into like pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, all the way up through enlightenment, which is obviously the peak. And understanding that the enlightenment aspect is just basically that you look at everything that you encounter in life from a neutral perspective. Things happen to you, but they are not attached with an emotion. It's how you perceive that event that attaches the emotion. So if you can interact with things that are going on in a neutral state, you can truly kind of see the lay of the land much easier and truly come out of whatever is thrown your direction in the best possible way.
Well, as you all can see, there's so much here. And I was just going to start to summarize some key takeaways that guide us into what's going to be coming and elaborated on as this series goes on. But I just want to let John know that I will be texting later about the sub-8 deep sleep because I didn't catch all of that. But that's a new one for me. And I would love to sub-8 deep sleep, whatever that means. It sounds fantastic. So that is what a concierge does, because you can reach out and be like, tell me more. What's the link for that to play tonight? So I love that model of, it's such a grandiose difference in feeling like you're a number and you have to get in and out and no one really heard what you said. They're just giving you a solution that doesn't work anyways, and half the time making you feel terrible. Saying that from my experiences last year of nearly wasting we have 2 weeks off every year for our holiday break with our team. We work so hard for that. And I was so sick. I had just a few days that I was even remotely able to go out of the house. It was awful. And my birthday's in that same time too. And it's, just being given things to take that really aren't what I need. And when I was like, I am done with this, all of a sudden I started to feel better. So I had to be my own advocate. And, the key here is, as is everything else, our health is an intentional effort. It's a proactive thing, not a reactive thing. Like, a lot of us do have reactive needs because, oh my gosh, I all of a sudden don't feel good. Of course, you're going to go and get healthcare advice and leadership, to guide the way. But how do we be proactive in this to, we feel pretty good right now. How do we feel even better? And do the sub-8 thing so we can sleep better. I sleep okay, but let's sleep better. So having that kind of an experience, and then knowing that every body is different. Every human has unique needs. And so we have to have intentional efforts with a custom plan. And then knowing that there's really 3 parts: the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. They're all important. And, the traditional practices, they don't work. We have to do out of the box things to get to the underlying issues, which are people that are willing to go and do the deep dive with you to really find the thing that is the solution that you need to help you feel your best. So I'm so excited to bring you all along, both of you, Dr. Saddoris and John, to start to coach us through this podcast, but also to offer you as a resource for people to work with one-on-one, you and your team. And I just challenge us to think, I don't know if there's any leader on here that doesn't have a coach in their life for something. Their business, their finances, they have people that they look up to guide the way. And if you think of your life wheel, the reason why we picked health as the first thing to add is because we think it's most important. It is. So why do we have coaches in all of these other areas? That's great. But do you have that in your life really guiding the way, the ones that really know to be able to help? So I'm so excited that you have joined us. And David, I know you're equally excited. We're thrilled that we feel better. It wasn't just I want to look better. Yeah, I feel better because I look better. But man, my energy's up and I'm fitting into those clothes again that I wanted to wear. And I'm saying yes to more. And David looks like he's 37 and he's almost 50. And we're just grateful to be at that better state in our health. And we're excited to share our newer friends with you who have become coaches in our lives. So we'll see you much more in the future. Thank you all. And cheers to better health and living addicted to betterment.
So you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.